Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of American Grit with myself, Tim Jensen. We have a banger of a show for you today. It is the final year of the 50th anniversary of the American War in Vietnam. That has been a 5-year celebration spanning across, the last couple of years as we celebrate the end of that 50-year anniversary. We've got a great guest with us today, a first lieutenant in the Army, fought in Vietnam back in 68, 69. He's also built an incredible business to support an incredible museum that he calls Grunt Sanctuary, that really brings to perspective his time in Vietnam while also recognizing the efforts of the American warfighter as they have gone from small town USA and other parts of the world to a small little communist-ridden place called Vietnam in the late 50s, early 60s, and throughout that decade. So I want to introduce to you guys Mr. Michael Lynd. Welcome to the show, my brother. How you doing?
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting me here.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you've got a bit of a storied past, my friend. You've been around the block a few times. Business owner, entrepreneur. You own your own museum that pays tribute to your brothers and sisters that fought in the war. How did it all get started, man? We talked a little bit about the show about the draft process, which I thought was quite interesting. Love to hear how the story of your journey began.
Well, I was born and raised in a very small town in Michigan by the name of Niles, Niles, and I went to Michigan State, studied business. I had a job offer upon graduation that was a lucrative offer for first time out of college. And although the semester I was leaving, and I got my draft notice, as I mentioned earlier, that said, "You're now going to be one of Uncle Sam's boys." Mm-hmm. And before they could draft me, I said, "Heck, I know I'm going in anyway, so let me go down and enlist. Might look good on my resume." Little did I know, if it was on your resume when you got out, you were looked down upon. Okay, that was a
the irony.
Jolt to me. The irony is right, especially when you got off your plane coming back and you had these protesters spitting at you and calling you baby killers and all that bullshit that goes on. However, I'm a firm believer, because of that nature of that protesting ended the war. I truly believe in that. The politicians didn't want to have any part of it because to half the country sped one way and hugged you and welcomed you home. The other half didn't. Yeah. So,
and that was a very interesting time in America, right? You had
everything going on.
Everything, color revolutions, the civil rights activation,
women's liberty, throwing the bras in the street.
Yes, it was almost like induced chaos.
It was a really traumatic experience to witness.
But we're going to add a little bit more to that, Michael. We're going to take away your male children and throw them into a country.
That's right.
On the other side of the planet.
Yeah, it was a mix. They were all, like when I went to Vietnam and I was given my platoon, I looked around and all those kids were, 17, 18 years old, hadn't even experienced life yet. And that's one of the most indelible impressions of being in Vietnam, was that it was the youth of America that was being wasted. Being wasted.
Yeah. I mean, so like during that time period, it was the encroachment of communism, that was coming from the north.
Bullshit. These people didn't know what kind of. When I first went over there and I saw these guys plowing a field with an oxen and a wooden plow, plowing their rice paddies, and you went home and cooked dinner. I said, what's going on here? This isn't a war that you got a line.
Right.
This is a war. When you walk out from your tent, you were in the war.
Yeah. It was all, fighting from the tree lines and.
Yes. Jungles. I was in the mountainous jungle region. And I'm going to digress a minute and tell you what. I was a company commander at that time, and I was leading. We were supposed to go take a mountaintop. They thought there might have been an enemy up there. And as we were going there, an NVA guy ran out of the bush right across the open area into another jungle. And all the guys wanted to get him. Let's go get this guy. I said, whoa, hold up. I said, you don't think that guy knew we were here?
Yeah.
He's drawing you into an ambush. Yeah. And by the way, if he's the only guy, we're not going to win the war by killing him, okay? Let the goddamn guy go. Let's do our mission. Yeah. And that's the way I felt about the war. It was one-on-one, small units against small units. Yeah. We tried like heck. I always said to the guys, I said, I just want you guys to know we're bait. We're bait, okay? Well, what they want us to do is make contact with a larger unit, and then bring all hell that we got with the artillery, the bombers, the fighter jets. And
that's an incredible thing to come to realization with, too.
Oh, man. Yeah, like at an early age, I recognized that real quick, that's the way this is going to be, and we're going to live with it. So.
Yeah, I experienced a little bit of that. I was 24 when I was in combat, leading 18, 19-year-old kids and seeing the response of like, hey, guys, our mission is to go out there and get into gunfights, like to draw them out, look like we're weak and get overpowered. And then the rest of the
we have something in common because I was 24 also when I lead those same age group kids.
Right. It's interesting, right? You're like, you got some of the most like, the cockstrong individuals in the world that are ready to run through walls, and they're handling millions of dollars worth of equipment. And you're like, holy shit! We all have to believe that we're dead before we even leave the place, so we can be
You're exactly
effective.
Right. Those thoughts went through my mind too. I'll tell you what, it's an experience. I tell you what, I didn't want to go to war.
Yeah.
I had a good job lined up. I was ready to make hay, but. What I learned in the military, I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. It's the oldest organized corporation there is, 250 years old. It teaches you a lot. The structure is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You can't be big if you can't handle delegating authority to other people that you figure have the moxie to want to do it.
Yeah.
A lot of kids don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's the that's what led me to like the belief of or like game theory, and my fascination with that idea is like getting large groups of people to do things that they don't want to do. Right.
Exactly.
That was and we ended up using coin in Iraq as a strategy, counterintelligence or counterinsurgency operations. And that was largely what you're doing is like convincing groups of people to do things that they don't want to do.
Yes.
And that's what business is. Like, hey, I'm convincing you to buy my thing over that thing over there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like
that's life.
It's pretty cool how it all comes together.
Yeah, it was a great experience. One I wouldn't want to go through again, but it was great for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're battalion or company commander.
I started out as a platoon commander, and when the captain was gone, I would take over the company because I was the senior.
Got it. Yeah.
Most of the other platoon leaders were second lieutenants, so I was the first lieutenant, so I was next in line.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that of all the the interesting stories that have come and been told of that time period in Vietnam, it was the cowboy days, right? Of like, you're going out there, you're working and doing the thing.
One of our famous generals, MacArthur, said, "Don't get involved in these type of wars.
Yeah.
If you're going to fight a war, fight a war."
Yeah.
And that's what the biggest aggravation that the guys, and even the young guys, figured it out real quick. If we're in a war, let's win it.
Yeah.
We could have ended that war in a month.
Yeah.
In a month.
I bet. And then, so I'd love to hear your opinion on, seeing how that whole thing played out, 60 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. And watching the 20-year war of the global war on terrorism, what was the similarities that you're watching? And my goodness.
Very. I mean, the guy explosives in the car, drives up and blows up 30 people. It's not war.
Yeah, right. It's barbarism.
Yes, it is. But that's the only way they could fight us. I mean, you can't fight us one-to-one.
Yeah.
Nobody in the world could fight us one-on-one. But, those little hit and runs are as devastating as being in a major firefight.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, that obviously shaped you in your younger years, the exposure, the loss of life,
yes.
Of the enemy and your own. How did that shape, your later 20s and beyond, especially when you come back into almost a hostile home area.
It was really chaos in this country at that time. But I just put my head down like I did when I went in the military. You just do it. You just do it.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in you that makes you do it, but you just do it.
Yeah. Did you have a lot of anger towards your countrymen?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm pragmatic. It's powers greater than me.
Yeah.
All I could do is control my 20, 30 guys from the platoon level to when I was a company commander, 120 guys. We were always understaffed because of losses. The one thing I told my platoon when I was first introduced to them, and I was taking over platoon leader, which is a lieutenant's responsibility, from an E6. He was the platoon leader because they were so short on officers. And I went over as a replacement. I didn't go over as a full unit. The full unit guys, they were with each other with 6 months to a year before they went over as a unit when they were first building it up. We got on a plane, didn't know anybody to fly over there. Just one-on-one, you never know where you were going because you stop in Saigon, and where the headquarters of meeting out the orders were, and you thought you were going here, but you ended up here because they were just plugging where they needed an officer over here, I Corps, no, this next guy here, 4 Corps. So you really didn't know till you met your guys in the field. But they were the greatest guys I've ever run into. I'll never forget them. My first discussion with him, when I told him, I said, I don't want any of you guys to die under my watch, okay? So it's a unit, we fight together, we help each other. I want to get you back alive. And my stint in the field as a platoon leader, when I left, I fulfilled my prophecy. I didn't lose a man.
That's great.
A month after I left, my point man and his drag man were killed real close to me. And matter of fact, I flew out there to get them off the hill that they were on and get their bodies back.
Yeah.
And to me, that was as macabre as it sounds, was it gave me relief to at least get them back.
Sure.
Get them back.
Absolutely.
Because everybody in the military is leave no man behind.
That's right.
Either alive or dead.
Yeah.
So that had a profound effect on my life. But I also know that there's nothing that's out there that can't be accomplished by a human being. There's nothing out there. There's people that became presidents of the United States that you probably wouldn't have thought in grade school that he would achieve that level.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've seen some, what combat showed me was the best and the worst of humanity, right? In some of the best instances, you saw compassion and bravery, courage, right? I mean, there's so many stories that have come out of Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam. Like, one of my favorite stories of the world is, the story of Master Sergeant Roy Benavidez and his Medal of Honor citation. If you haven't read that, you should. I wrote a book about it. It's fantastic.
I highlight him in my museum, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, that is the epitome of bravery.
Yes,
And then you've also seen the worst of humanity, right? Where what humans are truly capable of doing to each other in some of the worst circumstances. And that's like, again, as a young kid that you don't know what to expect, right? You know that you're going into something, when you raise your hand and, you're like, yes, I'm ready to go to fight and die for my country. But, that's all romantic until
it is.
you land you land into the place. You're like, well, I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do now, but that combat landing was shit. And now you're asking me to go to this location. You're not giving me any information, right? Like that's your experience when you're going to combat.
Yeah. I got to tell you a little story before I forget it. When I became a platoon leader, we were up in the mountains. It was over 100 degrees. It was miserable, and we were humping all day long, up and down hills. And I took a break, and one of the squad leaders came up and talked to me. He said, "Listen, you got to help us out." He said that we have a new kid here that can't carry his weight. We're all having to carry his rucksack, which was about 90 pounds of equipment in there. And so I said, well, send him up. We were up on a higher hill. I said, what's the problem? He said, I just can't do it. I said, well, you got two choices. Do it, or you could leave. But I said, we're not escorting you. We're not going to call it a helicopter for you. I pointed out, I said, see that black dot over there? That's the base. You could just take off and go, get out of here. I said, but just remember, there's a lot of enemy between here and there, and you're going to be by yourself. He turned out to be a hell of a soldier. As a matter of fact, he's one of the two guys that got wasted after I got out of there. He was assistant to point man.
Yeah.
And so he got it. That's why I wanted to get him off the hill, because probably, you have doubts. If I would have let him just be a malinger, the kid might still be alive. But
well,
tough decisions.
Yeah, that's things that unfortunately, people will have to. We like us will have to struggle with for the rest of our lives.
Oh yes,
right?
yes.
I do
every day. Every day.
You're further down the path than I am.
Yeah. Well, when I was younger and busier, I didn't have as much time to reflect.
Yeah. And that's why I think as part of the larger conversation here is we talk a lot about suicides in the veteran community. In the last 20 years, we've had a substantial amount of suicides, well over 150,000, right? By all stretches of what data we were looking at.
How brave those guys got to do to take their own lives? So?
Well,
there could be no greater pull on that trigger than what he's experienced to commit suicide, if that's the way he went.
Yeah. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yes, it is.
I forgot where.
But they have no statistics from the previous wars on that as much as they do on the.
Oh, and that's where I was going. It's like what we're seeing is that a large part of that cohort that's taking their lives are the Vietnam generations, the members of the Vietnam generation, because as they're getting into retirement, right, they're having, idle hands are the devil's playground, right?
That's right.
You start reflecting on all the things over the course of your life, and you get stuck into this time of period of Vietnam and all the questionable things that you might have participated in that today's society is looking back and saying that shit was wrong.
Yes.
But at the time period of the event, that was acceptable behavior, right? So now we're measuring ourselves against those things, and sometimes it overtakes these individuals, and they're taking their lives. I think that the big wave of veteran suicides is yet to even crest upon us, because once the first of the GWAT veterans, which is about 5 years away, gets into full retirement out of society, we are going to have big problems on our hands, because as it's starting to pan out, the Iraq-Afghanistan wars weren't really built on what they were meant to be.
Yeah.
Which will cause a lot of people to question their own things in a later period in life.
I'm very anti-war, not just because I went through, but just over the years, seeing these stupid wars that are being fought. And we got all the money in the goddamn world. Buy them off.
Yeah.
Buy these guys off. Money is more powerful than a bullet.
Man. Yeah. I think, I think I'm there as well as being, I think anti-war and all that stuff, it's tough. It's tough. I feel that, we shouldn't, we kill the amount of life that is lost on this planet daily is insurmountable. But then I have to think about the amount of evil that exists as well, and how do we rid the world of that shit?
That's been ever, right? That's been forever. Evil has always been lurking.
That's right. So unfortunately, men and women like us that are capable of bringing violence upon others, we have to exist. Yes. Right? Because evil's always lurking.
Yeah,
and
that's exactly right.
Bad motherfuckers like us that are willing to go out there and destroy it. So, it's the duality that we live in, unfortunately. Yes. So, now let's fast forward, past, the time of Vietnam. And thank you. Welcome home, brother. From one to another.
You know how powerful those words are to a vet? Those are powerful words, those few words.
Yeah.
Welcome home, because we didn't get a welcome home.
Yeah. When I will never forget this. There's a Medal of Honor recipient. His name escapes me these days. My memory's not so good.
Local guy?
No, this was in Chicago. Vietnam cat. When we came home from Iraq, right, we got a grand reception. It was a bit absurd, right, in reflection. But I understand, people were trying to do what we didn't do in Vietnam.
Exactly.
But what really struck me about that is we're coming off the planes at Midway Airport, and we're getting onto the buses, and this Vietnam cat gets on with us, and he said a couple words before we got on the bus, but. It was a 25-mile ride from the airport to this destination that we were going to.
That's my neck of the woods, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's where I grew up. And this band broke down on that bus and just really had a moment, and he shared with us a little later that it's because he was overwhelmed with his memories of his reception that was completely different from that. And I'll never forget that shit. That has stuck with me and will stick with me for the rest of my life.
Like I said, I reflected on a different angle because I feel that political pressure that those groups put on the government ended the war.
Yeah. And you're probably right. You're probably right. I think
whether I am or not, it satisfies me to go on.
There you go.
Day, right?
There you go. So you're out of the war. You're back in America.
Yes.
And you're armed with an education and a boatload of world experience. And you pick up on your entrepreneurial past, right?
That I did. The day I got back from Vietnam was the day I exited the military. I would have been a captain on that same day. And for a guy that came from not a wealthy family. It was pretty enticing. You got a bonus, you got a good salary, and all the benefits that the military gives you. But except one thing, after 12 months, I'd have been back in Vietnam. So that was the overpowering thing. I said, no, time to move on. And so I got a job with a national company that was primarily in the multifamily apartments area, of all places. If you've ever been there, of all places, their offices were in Palm Beach, Florida.
Man.
And that's where the wealth of America had estate after estate after estate after estate after estate. And it was like a whole new world to a guy from Niles, Michigan, 12,000 people.
Yeah, early 70s, right?
That was, I think I started work there in January of 70. You're right, exactly. Yeah. And so I got in there, and fortunately I was, for whatever reason, made the assistant to the president. It was a privately owned company. He owned it all, apartments. He had about 33,000 apartments from the coast to coast. And he told me, he said, you're gonna sit in my office, you're gonna say nothing, you're just gonna listen to all his meetings and things. Just listen. Then he said, afterwards we'll discuss. So I got it firsthand from a guy that built this from scratch to what it was. And so he got in trouble I worked there about 5 or 6 years, and he got in trouble, had to file a Chapter 11, which meant we had to sell all his assets, which I was involved in. We split the country up with 4 of us, and we were responsible for selling those assets. Yeah. So I could see where this was going. It was going like this. So I said, well, before you're tainted with a bankruptcy, I said, I could do this myself. So fortunately, one of the contacts I made while working for that company was I was in charge of the properties he had in San Antonio. And so he had bought these 4,000 or 5,000 units from one developer. The original developer was H.B. Zachary, a well-known company in San Antonio. They had a division of multifamily, which was run by a fellow, Jim Upmore. Jim Upmore ended up buying the multifamily because H.B. Zachary wanted to stay with their heavy construction stuff and out of that stuff. So I bought the apartments from here. I was still living in Florida at the time. I put together a conglomerate of investors that gave me the money to do it because I didn't have any money at all. I had experience, but that's it. So then after I thought about it for a while, I said, no, something, you got to get over there and watch these assets because everything's not good forever. It goes up and down in real estate dramatically. So that's what brought me to San Antonio. I moved to San Antonio. I worked out of his office. He was doing the management of the property for me at the time. And then I started adding to the portfolio, and I got big, and I finally said, I got to manage these properties. So I made a management company, managed the properties, and grew from there. So I had the lead investors were 2 gentlemen out of Chicago by the name of Herb Rudoy and Bruce Mandel. And Herb Rudoy was a big sports agent. He represented a lot of big-time athletes, Artis Gilmore being one of them, for instance, if you throw it out there. And they wanted to get out of the business, so they made me a sweetheart deal, and so I bought them out of the business and grew it over time, not just to be in San Antonio, but other parts of the country.
That's incredible.
And, fortunately, my sons wanted to come into real estate, into that area, so I wasn't going to deny them, although I didn't want family, because family is very difficult to work for. I expect more from them than the next guy I hired.
Yeah.
I've
been in that trap.
Yep. Oh, yeah. It stinks. So anyway, but it's worked out well. And I actually gave to my younger son because my older son went on his own. He's got his own similar business. He builds and buys apartments. He was 2 years older. The younger son was more, so when he wanted to come, I put him in management, so he knew how to run those things. And that I just, basically, I go in the office every day, but except for Thursday, I take off and run errands for my wife.
Yeah.
We've been married. I would tell you, that's a military story in itself. When I was in OCS, and we got our assignments. My assignment was Fort Carson, Colorado. And one of my best buddies grew up in Fort Carson, Colorado. Matter of fact, his dad was a 4-star general in the Air Force.
Huh.
So when he knew I was going there, he said, I'm going to give you a list of women's names here and tell you a little bit about each one of them. So he gave me about 5 names and their numbers and stuff. As he was going through it, he hit my wife's name. He said, she's a prude, but she's got great friends. So I said, I'm going to call her first, get her off the list. Ended up talking to her for like over 2 hours. And in 5 days, I asked her to marry me.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
5 months later, we were married. And we've been married 57 years.
Congratulations. Yeah. That's incredible.
That's my favorite story in the military. That I was... Yeah. It's been a good ride.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's great.
I guess I hate to get you off track, but I wanted to tell that story.
Oh no, fabulous story. But I think it's interesting, again to illustrate the you get out of the military, right? You've much like every military individual, right? You get out, you go home, you try to find something, right? You either fall into something that you're going to do for the rest of your life, or you try to build something and go from there. It's the stories are a lot, very similar over the years for a lot of people.
I'm sure.
And then to build and something that you can call your own, right? To really truly live that American dream of, what. I have an idea, and I'm willing to risk everything against it.
Well, when you don't have anything, it's easy to risk, right?
Right. Well, and I think that's like where I'm going with this is, for risk for like individuals that have seen some of the experiences that we have gone through. We assess risk much differently than other people. And I know I certainly do. Right. I'm willing to be far more take on far more risk than the average bear, because I look at things like,
what's greater than the risk you went through?
Right. Am I being shot at? Am I going to die? Like, those are the 2 questions I ask myself, right?
Yeah.
And if I can say no to those 2 things, like, well, let's go, right? And I ask myself that about stress too. Like, I don't, when I'm overstressed, am I being shot at, or am I going to die?
Yeah.
Right? It's a great life, leveler. Once you come into experience like that,
it certainly is. That's what I always say. I'm stressed out. I said, don't get stressed out so you have a loaded gun pointed at you. Then you can start stressing.
Right. Absolutely. So a lot of your life experiences and your success, really brought you to a moment in time that, you had the opportunity to give back and really reflect and, honor, your friends, the people that you met along your journey, in your time in Vietnam, and you built this museum of sorts, or a sanctuary, that you like to say. Tell us a little bit about, what the vision was behind this, and what motivated it.
Death, I guess, is what it really boiled down
Often
to.
the biggest motivator.
Fortunately, had been relatively successful in my civilian career, and I decided I had to build my own office building, because being in real estate, why should I be paying somebody else rent? Is
Right.
what the conclusion was. So there was a site on Access Road of 1604 that I had my eye on. I lived in Chavano Park then, and I always went by it, but you couldn't access it because there was a road that was supposed to be put in that was off Military, and then it swung and connected to the access road, and there was a plot of land there that was for sale. But the road wasn't put in. So when I got to the owner of the land, he said, well, I'll sell it to you, but you have to put that road in. And I said, no, I don't want to deal with the government. I just don't want to go through that aggravation and time. They tend to decide on what to put a stop sign here or there.
Yeah.
You're waiting and waiting. I said, I'll wait till that road's put in, and then I'll pay more for the land, but I'll buy it, which I did. Built my own office building there, a 3-story office. And when I was deciding where I was going to put the various department heads and what, I had space on the first floor that I didn't have a need for. So one day I was walking by it, going upstairs, and I said, I'm gonna do something here. Vietnam War had a profound effect on me, so I'm going to do something to honor that war, because in my opinion, that war, along with some minor what I call minor, I'm comparing it to World War II and World War I, those global ones will always be front and center because it was so global. So I said, yeah, I'm going to put a museum in here for Vietnam. At the time, I didn't have it's not a big space, 2,000 square feet. So I said, something, I'm going to put a Vietnam Army Grunt Museum. I said, I was an Army Grunt, that's all I know. If I go Vietnam Museum, number one, I'll get overwhelmed by the Air Force, and it'll overwhelm me. The Grunt Museum is, 10% of the military are grunts.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So that's what gave me the vision. I had hardly ever been into a museum. We had a small museum in our little town. It was as big as this little space here. That's the only one I ever visited. So I said, let's make it an Army Grunt Museum. And because I had still relationships with the guys that were in my company, letters and Christmas cards and stuff like that. I bet they can help me, give me odds and ends to fill it. And that's what started it. That's what it grew into. I said, I'm not going to charge anything for it because I want anybody to see what we went through. So I made it a pictorial history of our 12-month tour in Vietnam, the highlights. Nothing gruesome in the museum at all. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. Okay. The Marines, I said, always had a 13-month tour, so they always had to do better, but it was an Army Grunt Museum. Yeah. However, if a Marine walked in and he said, here, I got this, it was the same tool or gun we used, so, I'd put it in there for him, but I didn't turn him away, unless one guy drove up in a van. And he said, come on, I got some stuff for you. So I walked out, he opened his van. It was chock full of stuff. I said, holy I got a couple mackerel. Things. I wouldn't have had to go anywhere else. He could have filled it up. I said, I'll just pick a few things I feel I don't have. Yeah. I don't want two of a shovel or two, this, that, and everything. That's how it started. And it's like I call it a sanctuary because veterans in general don't talk about their experience in general. And if you're in a crowd, you don't stand up. I'm going to tell you what my military thing was. You just don't talk about it. But if you put a veteran in there with another veteran from the same war, they never stop talking. Yeah. It's just amazing. They just, it's like they were buddies on a hill yesterday.
Yeah. It's that shared experience of shit, misery, and pain.
Yes.
It creates brotherhood.
Yeah, the one thing that I remember the most of all, I was just out there, just with my unit. We went up on the hill. We were going to make a night logger up there. All of a sudden, I was standing up, pointing guys where to go. And boom! A round went by me. I didn't even know what it was. That was the first time I'd been shot at. Yeah. It went right by my ear. You could hear it crack right by there. Yeah. And my radio operator, he said, "Get down, Lieutenant, they're shooting at you." Yeah. He was down already. So I dropped to the thing. But I said
you-
that could have been a very short tour. If it had been about 6 inches over, I'd have been done for.
Yeah, yeah. It was I think everybody will that's ever been in it will never forget getting their cherry popped.
Yep. Yes. It's. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's crazy stuff. So over the years, you've gained a lot of different artifacts or just things of collecting things for the war. People have brought things in.
Yes.
How many people have come through and experienced the space?
I have a book that I make everybody sign, and I haven't counted how many, but it's about halfway filled. It was about that thick, and but I told you about that map I had on that wall, and that's just overwhelming to me. It's just matter of fact, the wall is pretty big. It was 6 or 8 feet wide and 10, 12 feet tall, with a big map in it.
Yeah.
And now I got to move because I ran out of space for people to sign unless they got on somebody's shoulders, sign up there. And so I got to move, and I'm going to move across the aisle to a corner which has 2 walls, and start signing there because I want everybody. They always say it's Michael Lynd's museum. No. I correct them. It's not my museum. It's our museum. Yeah. Okay. So I just happened to have the idea and thought that luckily had the space to do it.
Yeah.
I said it's not. It's not. It's just I just want people 50 years from now to know that we went to war and this is what we look like.
Yeah. Really. I think. We do a lot of the same things. Like your story is very, very similar to what we got going on here. We do a lot of art exhibits within our space. I showed you earlier today. Some of the art coming out of the GWAT period. And it's fascinating stuff.
Well, people tell me what do you do with these donations? And I don't pay rent. I give the rent free to the space. There's no employees to the museum.
Yeah,
it's me, and I get a secretary to help me, or I get a maintenance guy to hang stuff on the wall for me and stuff like it. It's all free, and it's just a holy space. Space really is.
Yeah.
You think of it that way. But it's got a lot of meaning.
Yeah.
A lot of meaning.
Absolutely.
Anybody that's been to war can relate to it in some way.
Yeah. Do you have anybody from your platoon or company that when you were in that capacity come through the museums?
Yeah, a lot of them gave me things to display, items to display, and I always ask them first what it is. So I said I don't want 10 poncho liners.
Right.
I got too many already. But they come through. They hold reunions here, and when they hold reunions, I invite them out. Not just my group, but anybody that wants to come out, because there's a lot of other veteran outfits from Vietnam that held the reunions here. So I always invite them out for a tour of the museum, and I offer them free lunch up in a rooftop. I have a rooftop restaurant up that's outside. I give them a buffet lunch. So they come tour lunch, and mainly it's just chatter among themselves.
Yeah. That's incredible. Well, how have people been finding the museum? Like they Google or how
it's somewhere.
Because honestly, I've been in San Antonio for almost 9 years. I'm like, Grunt Museum. I've never heard of this thing.
Yeah, well, it's.
But I'm a Marine, so I'm quite partial. I don't visit Army things.
It's war. It's what it is.
Yeah, totally. So if people were to want to come and visit the museum themselves, how would they find it? How would they go about looking for it?
I'm not a high tech guy because I didn't grow up in that area.
Yeah.
Between you and me, I hate it. I don't like the instant access to whatever.
Sure.
And but it does have a website that it does appear, and it's Army Vietnam Grunt Museum. So if you Google it, it has a thing on tells a little bit about it and stuff like that. I get a lot of the, like I said, these reunions. The reunions come all the time. When there's a Vietnam reunion, they'll always go there.
That's cool. I wonder, like, how big of the Vietnam veteran community is remaining, right? It's an aging.
Well, we're dying off.
Yeah, it's an aging group.
Yeah, it's amazing. If people want to find something, they can find it in the age of technology.
Yeah,
so
very true.
That's all I can say. And a lot of guys they'll call me or email me direct. We were holding a thing there, and I invite them to the museum and the lunch and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's usually groups of 40, 50. It's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
When they go, though, mostly the wives go with them, so you meet that. And I hold events. A lot of people contact me that are fringe military that hold events. For instance, the biggest one is the Quilts of Valor. I don't know if you ever heard of that. That lady started it for her son who had bad PTSD. And so she made him a quilt, and she noticed a change. Just a simple quilt. They're beautiful, but they're simple, and with enough personal stuff on it to appeal to their son, brother, whatever. They hold about 3 quilting ceremonies a year at the museum. They're not big events. They're like 50, 60 people.
Yeah.
It's usually the veteran and his wife or whatever relative they brings along with them. I do that. I also, and that's a good organization, by the way. It's amazing that a quilt. My mother made quilts, but she gave them away.
It's a whole process.
Yes, it is. It is. And then there's other, like the ROTC high school units. Mm-hmm. They're a big visitor. They bring their groups over, and they tour the museum. And I come down if I'm not busy in business. I come down and walk around and point out some highlights, and then I'll sit there, and as they come up and want to ask me questions, I'll do the best I can to answer them. But they're a constant visiting group, and then they'll bring their relatives back to show them on their own. Yeah. So it kind of builds that way. Yeah. But the money that the museum raises, like I said, it goes to no person's personal pocketbook, okay? Yeah. I use that money, when I get enough of it, to bring a food truck to a local retirement which has a number of veterans in it and give them a free lunch. And I went, fortunate one of them, the one I went to was in Floresville, which is an all-military retirement center. I've been on there a couple times, giving those guys a free lunch. Yeah. I bought Christmas presents for them all one year. And it's amazing. I got to say this, I don't care if she hears this or not. That one down in Floresville has a civilian group out of San Antonio that runs it. They run it all. Beautiful facility is owned by the military, but they got the contract on it. So to do anything, they got this woman there that has the vet coordinator, okay? So she and I have had our battles on the phone because you can't do, I go down there. I said I'd bring a photographer down to get pictures so I could show them in the museum what it's doing. You can't take pictures. You can't take pictures. You can't have a movie guy come. I had a guy who was going to do a movie. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do this. I said, Jesus. So I try to go to other places now, but so it spends its donations for a year. It all goes back out to benefit the veterans.
Yeah.
I usually bring the ROTC groups with me from high school because listen, that's their last stop before they're going out of this world. It's their last stop. They're hungry for communication, socialization, that sort of thing. That it's just.
Yeah. I would like to see, for the Vietnam generation, if we were to treat that generation as well as we treated the exit of the World War II generation, and
it never happened.
Unfortunately, it won't because like the Korean generation was forgotten, and like there's
they're fighting, but they don't want to recognize what everybody's done.
Yeah,
I mean, Jesus. Yeah. I mean,
well, I'll tell you this:
Afghanistan is even worse.
Yeah,
it's even worse.
I agree.
If you could believe that, it's worse.
One of the things that, a tradition that myself and a couple of my associates have started to pay recognition for those guys and gals is every time that we're in Washington, D.C., we make it a point after we've conducted our business to make it down to the Vietnam Veterans Wall. And, it started out with me and my associate and, just sharing a little bit of cannabis at the wall with the fallen. And over the years since we've been doing that, the group is getting bigger and bigger every time we go. And, the last time we were there was about a dozen of us, just, really sitting there reflecting, sharing. And
that's a powerful monument down there. That,
it really is.
That thing it'll lose its flavor and color as we all die off, obviously. But
sure.
It's powerful. I've been there to see it, and it's just, it's as insignificant as a piece of rock is with names on it. Yeah. We've all seen.
Yeah, there's 58,000 stories on that wall.
It's powerful, boy. It's really powerful.
Absolutely, and it doesn't get lost on us.
I bet it gets more visitors than anything.
I would. I think over the years, what they've done with the National Mall itself, I think that you're right. It is certainly the centerpiece of
it's more personable rather than looking at a statue of George Washington.
I will say though, if you've not been there lately, you should go and check out what they've done to the Korean War Memorial.
Yeah, it was pretty insignificant there for a while. Yeah. Those 3 or 4 soldiers walking across a rice paddy. I've seen it. Yeah. I can't fly anymore. I got severe vertigo, so I just my traveling days, unless I can drive to Bernie, are over.
Yeah, I hear you. It turned out quite lovely. I think they've got some virtual tours that you can do now for those that can't make it.
Yeah, if you got it, if you got a website address, send it to me so I can get out and see what they've done with it.
Yeah,
it's been probably really nice. 20 years since I was up there.
Yeah. But, I hear they're in talks of putting together a GWAT memorial that will be going on the mall.
What's that mean?
The Global War on Terrorism. Okay. So we'll be recognizing that 20-year war. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that. Hopefully it's not an abomination.
Too many people involved, it'll end up that way.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to have couple strong people that say no.
Yes, strong people. Mike, I think what you have done to preserve a lot of the history of the Vietnam War with your memorial and preserve using your business to do that, like as one businessman to another that's doing the same thing. I highly respect that. We don't it's tough when you're in business to put attention onto the things that are important, right? Because we're all trying to manage the P&L, the bottom line, profits, manage sales, all that shit.
Luckily, I brought my son David. He does it all now.
That's good. I
just enjoy it. I can't walk by the museum on my way to my office without stopping in, putting my head in, and shaking it. But
Excellent, excellent. Well, sir.
Matter of fact, you haven't been out there to that, I don't think, right?
No, it's on my list now.
I just went out and bought 2 statues. I am close to the Purple Heart Veterans Association, which is the largest in the United States. It's here in San Antonio. I was fortunate not to get wounded, so I'm not a Purple Heart recipient, but I know a lot of those guys. They're always, if you need a crowd to do something, they're the step up. They're always there for you.
Yeah.
But I bought a 3-man statue for them. They had the land donated to them on the south side, the VA or thing down on the south side. So I bought them a statue of a soldier carrying another soldier, walked by another soldier. So I bought that for them, and dedicated that last May. They had a big celebration down there. I bought I put together a grunt statue that as you drive in the parking lot of the building where the museum is, this grunt statue is right there, fully equipped with, you've seen 1,000 pictures of him with his gun in front of him. And so I've done that. Plus so I do a lot for some nonprofits that help the veterans, today's veterans also. I give them money, and there's a fellow by the name of Tony Fuentes. He was a medic in Vietnam, and he has an organization that helps. For instance, if a wife and kids, the husband dies and they don't have any money coming in, and they come down, move to San Antonio, they somehow get in touch with him, and he puts them up in a motel for like 3 or 4 days. Then he finds them housing for him. So he's the front line, and that's why I call him Doc. You're still a doc, because you're still taking care of those people that need help.
Yeah.
So we do a lot in that community and try to subsidize their operations as well as our own. Mine doesn't take a lot of money now that I'm done. It's, like I said, everything's free. So any of the donations go back out to those organizations.
Yeah, right on, man. Well, Mike, you're a hell of a man with a great legacy, and done some cool things over the years.
Yeah, I'm not a hero. I just did my job and said that's it. I didn't lose a man, and while I was in the field, that's my greatest. I don't know how. Yeah. Lucky, but that's all you could say. When that bullet whistles by your head,
that's all combat is.
It's just being at the wrong place at the wrong time costs your life.
That's right.
I'll never forget. I got to tell you this story. This is funny. And if I started to, I forgot to cut me off. I was taking that company up to a hill, and did I tell you about that NVA guy running across?
Off air, yeah.
Yeah, so that's my favorite story, because I had a young lieutenant that was just out in the field for 2. Let's go get him. I said, no. You think that guy didn't know we were here and he exposed himself for a reason? I said, no. I said, plus you're not going to win the war by taking him out.
Right. Yeah, that's one guy. We got a whole other thing to do over here.
Yeah. That's my favorite story.
There's something to be said about that. Man, just reflecting on my own experiences.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
Absolutely.
You were a Marine, right?
Yeah. When we got in the country, it was 2004, and I think to the point of what you were saying on that particular example you shared. I was fortunate enough to be part of the advance party of our battalion, so I got to do a little bit of a left seat, right seat with the unit we were replacing, and they gave us the insights on that, like don't do this, stay away from that. Here's some of the behaviors of the enemy, like don't get caught into these types of ambush. This is your TTPs, and man, it was. It's a hell of a good time.
Yeah, that information is the most important. I've told you when I went up and got those two kids that got killed on the hill. I wanted to get their bodies. As I'm going up the hill, I'm passing our advanced line, and I would go up to each one. Now, what's up there? What do I expect? Where are they?
Right.
It's, all that information, boy, just processing.
Yeah. Incredible to be young again, as they say.
Yeah.
To be young again. But it was certainly a defining moments of both of our lives and for many others. And, it's clearly set you on a path to success.
I think the military had a lot to do with what I was able to do.
Yeah.
I did. You can't do it all yourself.
That's right.
That's the biggest
teamwork.
That's the biggest thing. You can't do it all yourself.
Yeah. And
a lot of guys tried to get the Medal of Honor for it, but it's
that's a whole nother life of torture.
Oh yeah.
Yep, indeed.
It sure is.
Well, Mike, I want to say thank you for all of your contributions. Thank you for your service. Welcome home, my friend. And I hope that we'll be seeing more of the Grunt Style and your brand connecting on some issues.
If you have a chance, come out to the museum. And
absolutely.
I'll give you a tour. You can bring a couple guys or whoever you want to bring with you. Feel free, because
I would love nothing more.
It doesn't take long.
Yeah. Hey.
The only thing I'm not doing anymore is lunches on the roof, because my caterer quit. So I got to find somebody else.
Hey, good help is hard to find.
Yes,
days.
it is.
Well, my friends, you're going to want to check out, if you're ever in the San Antonio area, if you're here for recruit graduation or you're here to visit the Alamo, make sure you put on your list the Vietnam Army Grunt Museum here in downtown San Antonio. You're not going to want to miss that. I'm going to go myself, and maybe you'll see some content around that. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to say again, thank you, Mike, for all of your contributions. And that, my friends, is another episode of American Grit, where we interview the most interesting peoples and share some of the stories of just regular Americans, right? Because that's what we are, just regular Joes. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much for inviting me down here.
Absolutely.
Everybody likes to tell their stories, right?
That's right. That's right. And there's no better stories to tell than ones of courage and honor, right?
99% didn't want to be anywhere in these wars, but they did their duty. You respect the hell out of them.
That's right. That's right. And that's what makes Americans different than any other people on this planet.
That's it.
So there you have it, my friends. Till next time, you know the drill. Be kind to one another and wash those stinking hands. We'll see you soon.